Okay, that's Gimel. Ramea says there are things which are like unexpected developments and are not like unexpected developments. The sages, however, do not agree with him. How? If one said, Konan, I'm marrying so and so because the father is evil, and they told him he died or that he had repented, Konan, this house with respect to my entering because an evil dog is in it or because a snake is in it, and they told him the dog died or that the snake had been killed, these are things which are like unexpected developments, but are not like unexpected developments. The sages, however, do not agree with him. Rameh also said they can find ground to annul his neder from what is written in the Torah, and they say to him, if you had known that if you have known that you transgress, you shall not take vengeance, you shall not bear a grudge, or you shall not hate your brother in your heart, or you shall not love your fellow as yourself, that your brother may live with you. Perhaps he will grow poor and you will not be able to support him. Would you have vowed if he said, had I known that this was so, I would not have made the neder. It is permitted. They find grounds to annul a man's neder by reason of his wife's ketubah. It happened that once a man made a neder prohibiting benefits from his wife, and her ketubah was 400 dinars. He came before Rabbi Akiva, who was obligated to pay a ketubah to her. He said to him, Rabbi, father left 800 dinars, my brother took 400, and I took 400. Is it not enough that she should take 200 and I owe 200? Rabbi Akiva said to him, even if you have to sell the hair on your head, you must pay her ketubah to her. He said to him, had I known that this was so, I would not have made the neder. Therefore, Rabbi Akiva permitted her. Okay.
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 All right. More reasons to find a petach in somebody's neder. Paschin b'yamim tovim of Shabbat. You can use Yom Tov and Shabbos as an excuse. Okay. So, for example, let's say somebody took a neder from eating meat, or and they come and said to him, no, did you realize that it's a mitzvah to have sabasa v'yayin on Yom Tov and Shabbos? If you'd known that, would you have taken the neder? And he says, no, I didn't realize that. I would never have taken such a neder. So that's a good petach, says the Mishnah. But if that such a thing happened, initially what they used to say is, "Hayu omrim osan hayamim mutarim." Then Shabbos and Yom Tov it's mutar for you to eat meat. Shar kol hayamim asarim, but the rest of the time your neder stays in place. And Shivar Rabbi Akiva v'limeid shaneder shehutar miktzah so hutar kulo. And he pointed out, he said, listen, once a neder has had any kind of heter made in it, the entire thing falls away. You don't have a neder that's still partially effective. Once it's gone, it's gone. And that, by the way, we saw earlier in the machlokes between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. Remember, we had the case of a guy who was looking from a distance and he saw people eating fruit of his tree, and he yells out to them, "This is a konam lachem. It's a konam to you, and you should. That's how asur it is to you." He comes closer and he says, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize, Abba, it's you," and various other people. And so Beis Shammai said, "Okay, so for his father it's hutar, but for everyone else it's still asur." Beis Hillel say no. Once there's a heter in it, once the neder is no longer chal, it's no longer chal. So in that case, it was talking about a nidre shtaga, where he made a mistake. He didn't realize who was there. Right. It was a vow that was completely undertaken in error, and there Beis Hillel said it's completely annulled. And here is a case which is slightly different. The neder was initially chal, but he found a hataras nedarim for it. And even so, Rabbi Akiva comes and extends Beis Hillel's principle to the fact that once it's been partially annulled, it is completely annulled.
Completely annulled. Okay.
Ketzad Amar Konam she'eni nene lekulchen. How does this work? Here's an example of how it works. So if a guy says to a group of people, I have taken neder of hana from all of you. So let's say one of them he says it's his father, and he finds a petach because it's his father. Okay, then all of them are permitted because it was a single vow that covered all these people. Once the heter is made for his father, the heter is for everyone.
Following what Rabbi Akiva said.
This is Rabbi Akiva, which is the halacha.
Right.
Okay. She'eni nene lazeh v'lazeh. If he says he's like the Mishnah doesn't spell it out 100%, but it's like he changed the Nedarim. So he says, I take a neder of hana from you, boom, and then he looks at the next line, and I take a neder of hana of you just like I did for you. And they go and I take a neder of hana from C just like I did from B, and I take from D like I did from C. So he's changed them. There's a dependency over here. So that
Right.
all of them ultimately depend on A. Okay. So what happens? Hutar Harishon, if he gets a Hataras Nadarim on A, Hutar Kulam, then all of the rest drop because they're all changed to each other. Hutar Achron, however, if he only goes to the last guy, Achron Mutar Kulan Asorin. So that doesn't affect the guys who came before him, because those Nadarim are still standing. Okay. Hutar Ha'imtzai, let's say he gets a Hataras Nadarim for B. From B and onwards is those are all mutar because they were all chained on him. But before him, A is still aser.
Yeah.
If he says the neder in the singular for each person and does not relate them to each other, and each one is an individual neder, has to be treated separately, and he needs a hataras nadarim for each one individually. So he takes this neder against wine because he says because wine is just bad for my gut. So according to their medical knowledge, aged wine is very good for the gut. This is really, I didn't realize that. And so the Chacham says, okay, so you have a hataras nadarim, mutalach, and not only that, hutar b'miyushan v'lo b'miyushan bilvad hutar ela v'kol hayayin. Any wine now is permitted to him. So the same thing goes with onions. He says takes an from onions, because onions are bad for the heart. I don't know how long kufri, but you know that the kufri is what do they translate it as, the village onions. I'm not sure how that whatever kufri onions.
Onions with respect to my tasting them, because onions are bad for the heart. They said to him, but isn't village onion good for the heart?
Village onion, there we go. Village onion is good for the heart. And you get the hataras nadarim for kufri onions, hutar kufri, lo kufri bilvad hutar, ela v'chol b'talim. So now all onions are mutar to him, and furthermore, Masahaya, Leitir Rabbi Meir b'chol b'talim. This actually was a case where somebody took a general neder from onions, and through one species of onion, Rabbi Meir permitted all onions to him. And
Vav Ches.
yes.
One who makes a neder prohibiting dates is permitted date honey. If he makes a neder prohibiting winter grapes, he's permitted vinegar of winter grapes. Rabbi Yehuda ben Basara says, whenever the derivative carries the name of its source and he makes a neder prohibiting the source, he is forbidden the derivative as well. The Kakama, however, permitted. If one makes a neder prohibiting wine, is permitted apple wine. If he prohibited oil, he permitted sesame oil. If honey, he's permitted date honey. If vinegar, he's permitted vinegar of winter grapes. If leek, he is permitted leeks with a head. And if vegetables, he's permitted with vegetables because it is appellative. If one made a neder prohibiting cabbage, he is forbidden asparagus. Asparagus, he is permitted cabbage. If grits, he is forbidden grits pottage. Rabbi Yossi, however, permits it if grits pottage is permitted, grits. No, that's wrong. If grits pottage, he is permitted grits. If grits pottage, he is also forbidden garlic. Rabbi Yossi, however, permits it. If garlic, he is permitted grits pottage. If lentils, he is forbidden waste of lentils. Rabbi Yossi, however, permits it. Waste of lentils, permitted lentils. If one says wheat grain, he is permitted lentils. If one says wheat grains with respect to my tasting them, he's forbidden them whether they in the form of flour or bread. Grits with respect to my tasting them, he is forbidden them whether they're raw or cooked. Rabbi Yehuda says, if he says kohanam grits or wheat grain, with respect to my tasting, he is permitted to chew them raw. One who makes a net of prohibiting greens is permitted.
That's it. Then
That's it? That was it already?
Yeah, that's 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Sivas
Okay.
Zayin.
And these are divorced without a ketubah. One who transgresses the law of Moses, or Jewish practice. Now, what is the law of Moses? If she feeds him food that is not tithe, has relations with him when she is a menstruate, does not separate kala or vows and does not keep her vows. Now, what is the Jewish practice? If she goes outside with her hair uncovered, or if she spins in the street, or if she talks with every man. Abba Shol says also if she curses his parents in his presence. Reb Tarfon says also if she is a loudmouth woman. Now, what is a loudmouth woman? One who speaks in her house and her neighbors hear her voice. If one betroths a woman on the condition that she is not under any vows, it is found that she is under vows. No, I think it's wrong. That's what I said. If one betroths a woman on the condition that she is not under any vows, and it is found that she is under vows, she is not betrothed. If he married her without making any stipulations, and it is found she is under vows, she may be divorced without a ketubah. If he betrothed her on the condition that she has no bodily defects, and such defects were found upon her, she is not betrothed. If he married her without making any stipulations, and bodily defects were found upon her, she may be divorced without a ketubah. And all bodily defects that disqualify kohanim also disqualify women. If bodily defects were upon her while she was still in her father's house, the father must bring proof that these defects came about after she was betrothed and that his misfortune had caused it. If she entered the husband's authority, the husband must bring proof that she had these defects before she was betrothed and that his acquisition was made in error. These are the words to Reb Meir. The Chachamim, however, say, when does this apply? In the case of hidden defects, but in the case of exposed defects, he cannot make a claim. But if there's a bathhouse in the city, even in the case of hidden defects, he cannot make a claim because he examines her through his female relatives. Okay. Okay, Tanis. Aleph. Megillah.
Yeah.
Aleph. Megillah may be read on the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th day of Adar, but never earlier nor later. Cities that were surrounded by walls at the time of Yeshua ben Nun read on the 15th. Villages and large towns read on the 14th. However, villages sometimes advance their reading to the day of entry into the towns. How is this possible? If the 14th of Adar fell on Monday, villages and large towns read on that very day, and walled cities read on the next day. If it fell on Tuesday or Wednesday, villages advance their reading to the day of entry. Large towns read on that very day, and walled cities read on the next day. If it fell on Thursday, villages and large cities read on that very day, and walled cities read on the next day. If it fell on the eve of Shabbos, villages advance their reading to the day of entry. Large towns and walled cities read on that very day. But if it fell on the eve of Shabbos, advance their reading to the next day, isn't it the same thing? Let me see. It fell on Thursday.
Shabbos is Friday.
Right. If it fell on the eve of Shabbos, the day of entry. Okay. All right. I was looking at the other way. If it fell on Shabbos, villages and large towns advance their reading to the day of entry, and walled cities read the next day. If it fell after Shabbos, villages advance their reading to the day of entry, large town read on the very day, walled cities read on the next day. What is considered a large town? Any in which there are 10 unoccupied men. If they are fewer than that, it is considered a village. As regards these times, they said to advance rather than postpone, but at the time of wood offering of the Kohanim, the fast of Tisha B'Av, the festival sacrifice of the assembly are postponed and not advanced. Even though the Kohanim say to advance the reading rather than postpone, eulogies, fasts, and gifts to the poor and gifts to the poor are permitted on the earlier dates. Yehuda says, when may the reading be advanced? In a place where they enter the towns on Monday and Thursday. However, in a place where they do not enter the towns on Monday and Thursday, they may read it only on the proper date. Okay.
Aleph Gimel.
If one eats of them an olive's bulk of matzah on Pesach, he has fulfilled his obligation. An olive's bulk of chametz, he is liable to charas. If one of them mixed up with the other kinds, he is a transgression on Pesach. If one vows to abstain from bread and tubiyah, they are forbidden to him. So says Reb Meir. But the Kakaman say if one vows to abstain from Dagan, he is permitted from these only, and they are liable to Chala and Maishras. These are liable to Chala but are exempt from Maishras. Leket, Chikata, Peah, Hefka, Maisa Rishon, from which its Truma had been set aside, Maisa Sheni and Hedis, which has been redeemed, and the remainder of the owner of produce which has not reached the third of its growth. If Elias says produce which has not reached the third of its growth is exempt from Chala. These are liable to Maishras, but are exempt from Chala. Rice, millet, poppy seed, sesame, pulse, and less than 4/5 of grain, sponge cakes, honey cakes, paste balls, pancakes, and meduma are exempt from Chala.
Do one more because we started with it because we did the one that we did yesterday.
Okay, dough which was a sponge cake first, which was first sponge cake and in the end sponge cake is exempt from Chala. First dough and in the end sponge cake, first sponge cake and in the end dough is liable to Chala, and so are Kenufka cakes liable. The guy and Yud Hey. How do we shave a nesek? He shaves around it, leaving 2 hairs immediately adjacent to it, so that the spreading will be noticeable. If the Kohen confirmed the nesek with blonde hair, which disappeared and reappeared, and there was an expansion either initially or at the end of the first week, at the end of the second week, or after having been declared tahor, the nesek retains its previous status. If the Kohen confirmed the nesek with expansion, which disappeared and returned, then the same with blonde hair, at the end of the first week, at the end of the second week, or after having declared tahor, it remains as it was. 2 nesakim side by side are separated by a row of hair. If the row of hair is then split in one place, then the nesakim are tameh. In 2 places, the nesakim are tahor. How wide must the opening be? 2 hairs wide. But if the row of hair split in only one place, even if it's split the width of a gris, then the nesakim are tameh. 2 nesachim are one inside the other, are separated by the row of hair. If the row of hair split in one place, the affected person is tameh. If it's split in 2 places, he is tahor. How wide must the opening be? 2 hairs wide. If the row of hair split in one place, the width of a gris, then the nesachim are tahor. And okay, hey Gimel. If 10 tests of Father Abraham, peace be upon him, was tested and he stood up to all of them. This is to make known how great is the endearment of our Father Abraham, peace be on him. 10 miracles were performed for our ancestors in Egypt and 10 miracles at the Sea of Reeds. 10 plagues, the Holy One, blessed is he, were on the Egyptians in Egypt, and 10 plagues at the Sea of Reeds. With 10 trials, our forefathers tried the Holy One, blessed is he. In the wilderness, as it says, they have tried me now 10 times and have not listened to my voice. 10 miracles were performed for our ancestors in the Holy Temple. No woman ever miscarried because of the fragrant smell of the sacrificial meats, and the sacrificial meats never became spoiled. A fly was never seen in the temple butchering area. A seminal discharge never occurred to the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. Rains never extinguished the fires of the altar pyre, and the winds never overcame the column of smoke rising from the top of the altar. No cause for disqualification was ever found in the Omer, the Steh HaLechem or the Lechem HaPanim. They who assembled in the temple would be standing crowded together, yet prostrated themselves in ample space. No snake, no scorpion ever harmed anyone in Yerushalayim, and no man ever said to his friend, "This space is too restricted for me to stay in Yerushalayim."
Very good. The miracle of being that nobody actually complained.
Right. I have to ask you again because we did all this reading now and I can't remember. You told me the Mashiach's name.